Glory, the glory of Almighty God. In Jesus' name. Amen. The title of the message is Be Prepared, Be Fruitful, and Loving. You know, when I was Happy Resurrection Sunday, when I was thinking of what message to give on today, Resurrection Sunday, it's always a challenge. Because the passages that are available are limited. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And when I was looking at the different aspects of resurrection, in fact, I was telling my wife, I was looking at even the development of the Jews on what resurrection was, because they didn't believe in that really. They didn't believe that there was a need for resurrection because their king, the king that they were waiting for, was not expected to die. And during that time, people were moving. You know, I was telling my wife, there was a guy. I forget his name. His life was exactly like Jesus. And he was also crucified. But the thing that he never rose from the dead. And normally the disciples at that time, they moved from one expected Messiah to another. But as I was grappling on what to share today, I ended up in John chapter 20, and I was studying John chapter 20. I said, this passage looks so familiar. Then I realized it was the message I gave last year. And I ended up watching the message. And I was telling my wife, I was so blessed I wanted to play it today. I was such a good message. I was so glad. But then again, God led me to another aspect of resurrection. You know, who plays basketball here? Anton, right? He plays basketball. During the first half and the second half, what do you do? Do they normally take siesta? Probably no, right? Probably they're in the locker and the coach will be talking to them. and people who are in school, what happens between the first exam and the final exam? Do you go to sleep? Do you not study? Do you just play around? Do you just hang out with your friends and just watch movies and TVs all day long? Probably not. Between the first exam and the final exam, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So today we're looking at what happens between the first resurrection and the next resurrection. We know that today we commemorate the resurrection of Christ. And I gave that message last year. And I told myself, next year, the message will be the second resurrection. But in the meantime, this year, we're looking at what do we do? What do we do between the first resurrection and the second resurrection when Jesus Christ comes? Is it just a blank? Go to Matthew chapter 24. In Matthew chapter 24, we'll just be reading it just to give the context of what we'll be discussing, which is Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 24, we start at verse 3, says, As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and at the end of the age? So that's the question of the disciples. When and what will be the sign? And Jesus answered them, See that no one leads you astray. Because many will be astray. For many, not some, but many will come in my name saying, I am the one, I am the Christ. And they will lead many, a magnitude, astray. When I add words, by the way, I'm trying to emphasize, because when you read the the Bible in Greek, there are certain words that are emphasized. So when I say many and I add magnitude, I just want you to get the force of the word in Greek. And they will lead many astray. Verse 6. And you will hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet. Verse 7. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdoms against kingdom. And there will be famines and earthquake in various places. All these are but the beginning of the birth pains. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death. And you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Verse 10. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because of lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And the gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations. And then the end will come. Verse 23. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great miracles, great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. From the fig tree, learn this lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts its leaves, you know that summer is near. Very, very near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that He is very, very near. At the very gate. 36. But concerning the day and hour, no one, absolutely no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. But the thing is, di ba, man on its own, we always want to know. We always want to know, when is Jesus coming? And what Jesus, in what we're looking at today in Matthew chapter 25, is this. It is not that important when Jesus is coming. What is important is this: are you prepared for His coming? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves between the first resurrection and the second resurrection. Are we prepared? Yes, you're asking when, what's the sign? And if there's wars, rumors of wars, famine, know for sure that it's very near. Christ is already at the gate. We look at the news today. There seems to be a higher threat of war in Korea. Oh yeah, I thought of your wife. I prayed for her last night. I thought you were there. Hindi natuloy. And there were, I heard starting next week, flights from China to Korea was canceled already. And it's worrisome. Wars and rumors of wars. It's increasing. Famines. They're all increasing. But Christ says, but no one will know the exact time. And He goes on to Matthew 25. And we will read Matthew 25. Verse 1, it says, then the kingdom of heaven will be comparable to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. Now the story here is Jesus is telling a parable, and the scenario is there's a wedding. Weddings during that time is very symbolic, very important. And there, what normally happens is the bride has her bridesmaids. And here, they're called the 10 virgins. They are close friends of the brides. What normally happens here is that the bridesmaid would wait outside the house of the bride. There with lampstands. These are not small, these are torches. Because normally, this would happen at night. The bridesmaid will wait for the groom to pick up the bride. Once she picks up the bride, and this is after the engagement period, betrothal, they will now walk together going to the husband's house. Leading the way are the bridesmaid with their torches at night. And there they will be singing. There will be dancing. It's a lively event. Normally stores are closed already by night, by sunset. But when there is weddings, the stores are, some of them are still open. And they would wait, and once the groom arrives with his friends, they would call the bride, and they would now make a procession going to the banquet, which is normally the house of the guy, which normally is where they'll end up staying as married couples. So here, then, the kingdom of heaven will be comparable to the 10 virgins, the ones waiting outside the house, who took their lamp and went out to meet the bridegroom. By the way, typically, if it's the first time you'll get married in Jews, you marry on a Wednesday. And if you're a widow, you marry on a Thursday. Olala, I thought of just mentioning it as an interesting point. If you go in Israel and it's a Thursday and if there's a wedding, chances are she's a widow. So chances are this is a Wednesday wedding. Verse 2. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were prudent. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the prudent took oil in flasks along with their lamps. Now the whole bridegroom was delaying. They all got drowsy and began to sleep. Now typically the torch is normally already with oil. But that oil, they say, in the torch would typically only last 15 minutes. So you really need a flask to store additional oil so that while walking in the dark, hindi mag-brown out. And they get lost, right? And here, there was no difference between the 5 foolish women and the 5 prudent women. None so far. Now, if you notice in verse 5, now while the bridegroom was delaying, there was a delay. Interesting, because in all the parables that we're looking in chapter 25, you will notice there is a delay, unexpected delay. But during weddings of the Jews, there is really customary a delay. Why? Because the family of the bride is still haggling till the last minute with the family of the groom on the bride price, on the gift that will be given. Pamimigay ko na yung daughter ko eh. O, so magkano babayad na sa akin for this? Is the thing. And after the last minute, they would haggle and haggle. And it will be a win-win situation, because if they haggled, let's call it ₱1 million for this bride, very expensive, then in a sense, the family of the bride is happy, And the family of groom is happy.